recording. Okay, again, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this week's Weekly Wave. We do have a bit of repeating information from previous weeks, but we do have a few updates related to STNs and the Dropout Report. So to get right into it, let's get into the reminders. So I've said this pretty much every week, the last couple of weeks. So we do have end of year reporting opening in various departments. So for those departments that are reliant on wave data, you'll want to make sure that you're checking your wizards and the STN system to make sure that there are no issues going on with those reports. I will be again getting into the STN system in just a moment, but for the data validation wizard, the district ownership wizard, and the XSD wizard, if you are seeing issues in one of the three, please reach out to us and we can take a look at your error or warning and explain to you what's going on if the error explanation specifically for the data validation wizard isn't clear, or you've got some strange happenings going on with the district ownership wizard. The XSD wizard is typically best handled by reaching out to your student information system vendors support. If you take the contents of the error message that does pop up in the XSD wizard and give that to your student information system vendor, they can go and look at the information that has been sent to the state recently for that particular data point and make sure that whatever it is that is saying that is an error does not continue to send to the wave as an error. Specifically for XSD wizard errors, as I've said in previous weeks, if you have those errors, that means that the data that is minimally required to send from your student information system to the wave, that information is not being sent to the state correctly. So say we're expecting to see a series of numbers in for a data point, but we're getting text for that instead, that would typically result in a XSD error, and we will not accept that information. It will not come through into our system because our system does not know how to validate that information. So if you do have those errors, please take a look at that. You can see if you have XSD errors, district ownership issues, validation wizard issues, or issues in the STN system by looking at the errors and warnings widget on the Wave homepage. So more reminders that we have been kind of getting into in previous weeks. Demographic overlay, still tossing around some dates here. There's some moving parts with that report. This is why accountability has not specifically reached out and sent an email letting you all know that that report is opening in the Wave. So stay tuned for that. We apologize for the delay. The ASR still open, still continue to reach out to us or state aid if you have issues with your membership attendance and transportation, keeping in mind our request schedule that is posted on our website. So if you're making changes in your student information system and you're wondering why those changes aren't showing up, it could be as simple as we haven't requested the data yet. And it's possible that your student information system is not set up to send us changes, say for your calendar information specifically. This is not expected. Most of the student information systems are set up to send us data daily without prompt from the state. The only exception of that rule is for student daily attendance and membership. But we do know that there are some vendors out there that are making changes to the way that their student information system is structured, and we're starting to get changes for attendance as it's being made in your student information system. So that's great. But for most of you, you are reliant on us requesting for data. So do keep in mind our request schedule. We only request for attendance and transportation 3 times a week. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are when we do get new data from your student information system, unless you are one of those using that specific vendor who we are aware of is sending us some changes as they're being made in the student information system. All right, so the dropout report. We are making edits to the dropout report. And we're crossing our fingers and hoping that we will be able to push out those changes tomorrow, and we will be sending out updated guidance to walk you through how you can go about making edits to the report. For example, if you are missing exit information for your students, you will see that there is no exit information for those students, and they will be considered a dropout for this particular iteration of the dropout report. I do have school year 2021 on here, and this is not entirely accurate. So any student that has re-enrolled in your district, there have been some adjustments to the definition of a dropout for the 1920. Specifically, the 1920 dropout report, there have been some adjustments to the definition of a dropout. So what that means for you all is that we are able to consider any student that has re-enrolled in school year 2021 to not be considered a dropout. Right now, we are getting a lot of questions about students who transfer to another school district and why they're showing up as a dropout. Simply, that is because those students did not re-enroll by September 30th. We did have this report set up to only look for students that enrolled between October 1 and September 30th. So that is why right now, in some cases, you're seeing if you have a student labeled as a transfer student, that is why those students are still showing up on the report. So that's another change that we'll be making here.
Can I jump in here, Lakeisha?
Go ahead.
I want we need to be very clear that the flexibility for this year that the federal, US Ed has extended to us by letting us look for any students who have returned at all during the school year of 2021 to not be counted as dropouts is a 1-year exception. Next year we will go back. We are required to go back to the old way, which it was where the last day we can look at is September 30th. So if a student has discontinued schooling for whatever reason between October of 2020 till September 30th to 2021, if they have not re-enrolled by September 30th of 2021, we will not be able to allow them not to be counted as dropouts next year. This year, for the 1920 school year reporting year, the federal government has extended a lot of flexibility where we can look at any time during the 2021 school year. If they returned, they are not going to be counted as dropouts. But again, that was a COVID exception that the US had made for dropouts and the counting of dropouts. So next year, they've already released the guidance for next year, for this next reporting year, for the 2021 school year. We will not have that extension. We will not have that that flexibility next year.
Thanks, Eric. That's really great clarification. The last change that we'll be making for this report, those of you who do have seniors that have had misinformation or missing information and are using the Accountability Easy Grad tool in accountability reporting, we will be syncing up with the information that is showing in the Accountability Easy Grad. I want to be very clear that this is only for seniors in the current cohort. So if you're trying to do this for any other grade level, you will not be able to do it. That is where the edits to the report will come in, and you'll be able to make those edits on the screen, on the report, without having to go through our office specifically and wait for those changes. You'll be able to make them, and it is expected that depending on what information you put onto the report, when it does refresh overnight, a student will either drop off of the report because they have an exit code that is not considered to be a dropout, or thank you for the clarification and information. And unfortunately, that student will still be considered a dropout. But when it comes time to hand this data off to accountability, there will be more information there for them to go off of as well. So depending on, like I said, what you put into the report, edit-wise, they will still either be considered a dropout or they will fall off of the report the following or that evening. So again, stay tuned for updated guidance. We will make a very loud announcement. We'll put it on the WAVE homepage, throw it up on our Teams channel, and send it out through our normal Gov delivery. If it doesn't coincide with the Engage OK newsletters that go out on Tuesdays. But because we're considering that this is going to be rolling out tomorrow, be looking out for an email directly from our office explaining how to do the things that I mentioned or review the things that I have mentioned. So I'm just going to quickly go back here before I go to the next slide here. I'm going to go to the next slide and just cover this. Once these changes are made, if there are still questions about, I still have a student that's been marked as a transfer and I still am seeing the student on the report, why? We'll just ask that you do include the STNs for those students that you would like us to review, and we will go through and make sure that there's no situation related to, say, STNs that are causing that student to still show up on the report. So that is that for the dropout report. I'm going to quickly go and answer some questions here in the chat related to reports specifically. There's a question about the post-secondary opportunities report. That will still be in accountability reporting, and they will be giving out more information for that specific report if they are going to be collecting the data or not. Right now, since there's a waiver on the report card, the end of year reports for accountability may have changed just slightly. So be on the lookout for an official word from them specifically. But if you want to reach out to them, we will put their email address in the chat. It's very easy, just accountability@sde.ok.gov. And yep, right now, if you have students who've only been enrolled for the 2021 school year and they're on the dropout report, it is because they left prior to our cutoff date, and we do not see a subsequent enrollment for that student by September 30th. So if they have popped up somewhere else between the time that they did drop from your district and the end of the year, they will not be considered a dropout. And I think I answered juniors are not going. Juniors right now, to my understanding, are not going to be on the Easy Grad reports specifically for seniors, but that question would be a great one to send to accountability, which their email address has been put in the chat. So take that and please send in them the question that you just asked. Yep, okay, I think we've answered a lot of the other ones. They're kind of repeating, asking about students that are still enrolled. So if I haven't answered you, please holler in the chat again and I'll circle back to it. But for our last slide here, we're going to talk about STNs. Okay, so a lot of you are being very diligent and we thank you for doing that. So you may be seeing students that have exited or already have an STN in your student information system, and they're now showing up in the STN system, and rightfully so. We have been getting questions about why those students are showing up, because one of the two situations have already happened. Student already has an STN in your student information system. So now it's really confusing why we're asking for you to resolve them again. And simply, to kind of break it down simply, it's because we're doing an internal audit of all of the STNs that were ever issued for a student. And so the students that are popping up right now in the STN system have a invalid STN in our system. It could either be that STN is no longer active in our STN system. And so we're not able to properly track and reference that STN as we would expect. So what we're doing here is making sure that we're reassociating essentially students with an active STN so it can continue to be tracked properly. We have the complete history of when the STN was assigned, by what, and how. Right now, for some students, we do not have that information, so we are remedying that by rerunning those student records through the STN assignment process, and that is why a lot of you are seeing one of the two situations that I just mentioned. You're seeing students that you already know have an STN and they're popping up in the STN system. So we've been getting asked, what should you do? So in most cases, or not in most cases, but if you're able to resolve the student to an STN that shows as a match, go ahead and do that. There are a lot of instances where we're seeing students having another STN between districts. And so in some cases, you are able to resolve the STN to a student that is popping up as a match. You should not create a new STN for those students. You should resolve them to that STN that is showing up there. That will be the new STN for that student going forward. Otherwise, if you're not seeing a match for that student, unfortunately, we will need to create a new STN. This will make sure that we are able to properly show historical information and future information for a student, making sure that we do not have between school years 2008 and right now, we do not have students sharing STNs, and we make sure that every student, unless we're legally required not to, has one STN from their entire schooling history. So obviously, this is going to impact social education, accountability reporting, and the assessment testing that is going on right now. We're working with all three departments right now and making sure that we have clear guidance on how this will affect you going forward. It's a little kind of late for us to be getting you all this documentation, but right now, this is something that we are going to need to do. The timing of it is not great, but essentially, this is why this is happening. We're not trying to burden you all with additional work. A lot of our team here is going through and mitigating those STN issues in the system on your behalf. And for those of you who have emailed us right now, and we have been able to get back to you, this is essentially what we've been telling you as well. I do know that there are quite a bit of you that have emailed us about this, and we have not been able to get back to you yesterday. But we will kind of walk you through it again if you need it. So we will reply back to your email. I just wanted to here at least say this is the situation that's going on, and we will get back to your questions in our inbox. But let me go here and answer some of these questions in the chat. No, if you have an STN in your system already and they're showing up in the STN system and you end up having to create a new STN, you do not need to ask us to resolve those and link them. The STN in your student information system is not a valid, accurate, valid active STN in our system any longer. That is why you're having to create a new STN. We're not able to find the STN that exists in your student information system in our system. This is, and so that is why you're needing to create a new one. Obviously, this is absolutely not ideal. This is a issue that we found that resulted from a handful of years ago that affected some of our early issued students who were around for a while. So for students that are now just enrolling, this shouldn't be affecting them at all. It's really only an issue isolated to students that for most of you have already left your school district. They hopefully are thriving as adults. So another question here.
Hey, Lakeisha, so my question was about this.
Thank you for answering that question about the juniors for the easy grad. No, if you're seeing matches on there with students with completely different names, you can just go ahead and create a new STN for those students. Like I said, we are daily talking with the assessment office about the impact for testing and how all that will roll out. They're fully on board with the work that is happening right now. It is very necessary for all three departments that are on your screen right now. So they're very aware of this situation. We're just finalizing the what is going to happen for these three departments for you all, so you can share that with all of your teams. We'll be getting that out as soon as we can. If we can get this out this week, that will be really great. But we will be sending this out. I'm going to kind of blanketly set this. We should hopefully be able to send something out, maybe not in great detail, but at least generally for some departments by this time next week. So. Right, and like I said, we are going through our departments as well. We're going through and resolving a lot of these on your behalf. So this shouldn't be it is going to be a burden for those of you who are diligently going through the STN system and doing what you normally do. We're trying to get through as many as we can. But obviously for some of you who are really on top of it, you're going to see this, and I know it's confusing. Unfortunately, we do not have a way for us to do this in the background without it also being visible to you. If that was what we could have done, that is what we would have done. But unfortunately, this is where we're at. Like I said, the timing of this is not ideal at all. We're not trying to make excuses for this. This is just going to impact all three offices here going forward for being able to make sure that we have historical information that we can show to you all at any given point, and for any of the students that you've ever had enrolled in your school district. We're really not trying to put a burden on you all. We're really just trying to make sure that we're giving you the most accurate, the best data that we can.
And Lakeisha, this is Sydney. If they're not comfortable doing these, then leave them and I'll eventually get to them. Or if they don't have time, that's fine. If they don't have to worry about them.
Yep, you can leave them, like Sydney just said. If you're not comfortable resolving them, we will make sure that we take care of all of the newly popping up students in this system. If your staff is not comfortable doing it, we will take care of it. We're not expecting for you to take care of these as though, they were popping up as normal. I know it's not as easy to see based off of, just the information that we have currently showing. But yeah, like Sydney said, if you're not comfortable, we will take care of them. We're working through them kind of as we kind of speak here to get that number back down to what it was before the other day. Because we were really good. We only had across the state about 40 before we started pulling in all of this work. So, all right.
Just remember, many hands makes light work, and thank you very much for those that are helping us do this. I am actually literally doing it as we speak, or as I listen to this call. So any help is appreciated. But if you don't feel comfortable doing it and you have questions, please just skip it and let us handle it.
All right, so going to go ahead here and make sure. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.